All right, I think it's time for another video on pricing and equipment and what we charge and how you get that price. I did a video a while back ago, and I keep seeing different videos with different ideas, different prices, and different price schemes. Just watched one guy back east. I'm not sure what state it was. I'm in San Diego County, by the way, and he's getting $220 or $200 to $225, $250 an hour for forestry mulching, and that sounds extremely low. So I just want to kind of go over my strategy, my background. I think that's really important in getting a lot of money, getting the money you want. So I have a background in sales. I've sold everything from real estate, timeshares, air conditioning, windows, roofing, water, been a truck driver. I've done a lot of different things, photography, wedding photography, believe it or not. So I just wanted to help you out on that side of the equation. Of course, I still listen to and grow from people like Alec Carmuzzi, Mike Andes, people in the industry, old guys like Jim Rohn. I want to tell you, you got to keep building yourself, your equipment, and your skills. So roughly, I wanted to let you know how I get the money, because I do get quite a bit, not as much as some of my competitors, believe it or not. I'm on the higher end, I'm not gonna lie, but I want to tell you, it comes with different risks. You got to look at the risk you're taking. So for mowing, this mower right here, I get my aim there is $500 an hour. While I'm in the seat, $500 an hour. This mower can do an acre of knee-high grass easily 30 to 40 minutes. If it's higher, 4 feet thick stuff, higher stuff, it might take an hour. So a whole acre of that kind of stuff is going to be $500. You add trees, that's going to slow you down. You add hillsides, obstacles, dips, and all kinds of stuff, it's going to go up. So I charge by the job, and by now you should know how fast you can do the job by looking at it, right? You should be able to see that job. Say, okay, I'm look like I'm being out here. So $500. Plus, if you want to throw something in for your travel, if it's a long ways, definitely if I have to travel an hour, it's going to be an extra whatever, $250, $300. So now grading this machine here, if you guys know, that's a 333G. These things, they run about $85,000, 90,000, 100 horsepower. That bucket is like over 10 grand. Grading to me is not real dangerous. I can get a lot of work done, and I'm getting more and more work done as I get skilled and whatever. And I find it's not as tasking and damaging to my equipment. When I'm doing mulching, like with this piece of equipment right here, this is a Skid Pro Extreme 4. It's got the 450 pound flywheel and those blades, and this is a standard flow. I did probably 2/3 of an acre of waist high brush and some 12-foot sumac brush, and I charged $2,800. Of course, I started with $3,000, and he wanted a couple $100 off. And this is where I want to really emphasize: it's not what it costs you. That's the lower end of the spectrum. The higher end of the spectrum is what is the traffic willing to bear. And the constraints on that is how knowledgeable they are. If they know a list of 100 people ready to come do this job, you're probably, you're going to be somewhere in the middle, right? If they don't know anybody else, if they've called 3 people, and this has kind of been the story around here, I answer the phone. And folks, that's the hardest part to do, is get the phone to ring. So when the phone rings, for God's sake, answer it. have somebody answer it. I was watching a video with another guy. He was saying his company makes, I think it was like 700,000 a year. He pays his mom 60,000 a year to answer the phone, and because he has the highest conversion of phone calls to jobs. Not a lead turned into a phone call, not a estimate, not a maybe, not a go see. No, she turns them in to a job because she answers the phone, schedules it on the calendar. He goes out, does the estimate, whatever, gets it. But the main takeaway there is they answer the phone. I get a lot of customers, they tell me like, oh, wow, you answered the phone. I called like 3 other people, and I have the same problem. I call people, whatever, for an estimate on whatever, drywall at my house or something, needs to be done. I want to just see if I can, get somebody to come out. 2 weeks later, I get a call like, oh yeah, we died and we moved to Idaho, and you got the wrong number. Like, it's just ridiculous. That's the hardest part, right? We spend so much time and money and effort to get the phone to ring, because ultimately that is your constraint. If you can eliminate the constraint of customers, then the number of people calling your business, then you can charge more, right? If you're getting 100 calls a day, are you trying to lowball people? Are you worried about what you can charge? You're like, hey, here's the price, take it or leave it. I'm busy, I gotta go, right? So I want to tell you, answer the phone, whatever means you're doing, whether yard signs, Facebook, Craigslist, Instagram, whatever. I'm still learning this kind of stuff, how to edit videos. When you get a phone call, an inquiry, I always text them or call them right away back with a thank you for your interest. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. Send me some pictures. What kind of a brush you have, your address, how many acres, that kind of stuff. And I'll get back to you with a free estimate. Now, if they want a on-site quote, I charge $150. And if they balk at that, I just, I don't really want to work for, people where I don't feel comfortable, or people who don't appreciate my time, who want something for nothing. Now, these people, they just told you they don't want to pay for an estimate. They want a free estimate. So they can't really turn around and tell you, well, I don't want anything for nothing. They just told you they do, right? So right there, you get to test the waters. They're going to probably call, 4 or 5 people and, try to get that free estimate. And, shop your price. So with that in mind, that's what I look like. Hey, you want to shop prices? That's okay. Shop prices. Call me last. I promise you, I'll beat everybody's bid. I'll be the best bid. So now they have to call you back, right? Don't give them a price. They have to call you back. Now, when they get frustrated because they're going to call other people, but guess what? They don't answer the phone. You answer the phone. Now they're curious, right? They're going to call you back. Now, if they call you back and they say they got somebody going to do it for $1 an acre, you kind of laugh at them. He's like, damn, that's a really good price, man. And you're like, who are they? Can I get their number? Because I'd like to use them, But yeah, I can't beat that price. So you lied. Whatever. You're not going to beat everybody's price. That's ridiculous. Now, if they're telling you the truth, they're going to go with the other guy. But if they lied, they already shot themselves in the foot. Because now they can't say, well, I want to use you because, you answer the phone and you sound like you know what you're doing because your price is higher. They just told you they got somebody cheaper, right? And so you can't always listen to that, go with somebody else's price. The other answer I tell people is, if they just want a price, or how do you charge, or what do you charge? Like Alex Armuzzi, I've learned this before too, he says the same thing, is, a lot. I'm probably the most expensive out there. And what you're doing is you're anchoring them to a higher price, a really high price. Then, you go on with your conversation, talking about the growth and, the price of wheat and corn and, and what they did last time and how they like it and how many acres and blah, blah, blah. And then you finally get an idea of what you're talking about, and then you can give them a price, whether because they sent you some pictures or videos or whatever. Then you can, when you give them a price, they're already thinking it's going to be really high. So your price is either going to be lower than what they're thinking, or they're going to say, well, dang, that's not as bad as I thought it was, if you tell them it's going to be really high. But back to when I was telling you about being a salesperson. I learned this a long time ago when I started sales. People find the money for what they want. That's one rule. I've seen it over and over again where people, seemingly broke people, didn't have a nice car, they looked like they were broke, and they just didn't want to spend any money. But I'll be darned, if they found something they wanted, whether it be gold rims for their beat up old Chevy or, Impala, whatever, all of a sudden they're laying down $100 bills on that counter to get it. So folks, don't listen to that. Get yourself some quality sales training. It'll help you in negotiation. You got to know how to negotiate. You got to know what's going on. You got to know how to ask for the money. You got to, never mind what everybody else is charging. I don't care if everybody else is charging half of what you want. I don't care if there's 100 people doing it. You got to get the phone to ring, do the advertising with it. When they call you, that's your shot. That's your opportunity to make some money. And believe it or not, they don't know what you know. It's not perfect competition out there. Perfect competition is when everybody has the same knowledge. Everybody has the same knowledge of the products and pricing out there. Then you have the best pricing, and increasing quality and decreasing prices. They don't know. They don't know how much it costs to rent a tractor. If they wanted to rent a tractor, they might not even know how to operate it, and most people don't even know that you can rent one, and they certainly don't want to get on one, and they wouldn't know what lever to begin pulling or pushing or whatever. So don't let that bother you. I often run across these people. They tell me, oh, I can go rent one for that. I say, well, then you're not my customer, obviously, right? I'm not looking for you. And and they're a lot of times they're just flabbergasted. They don't know what to say to that, because they really don't want to. They know they can, but they don't want it. That's why they're calling around, right? And I ask them, so why are you calling me? Well, I'm busy and it's hot and it's just, the wife and blah, 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 the party this weekend and then, right? Whatever their reasons are, you don't know yet. So another clue in sales is listen. Do a little talking, ask some questions. How are you doing? How's it working? What are you doing now? What'd you do last time? How did that work out? Let them talk, and then listen. Listen for the pain in their voice. Listen for the cue in to where, okay, that they got a notice from the fire department to abate all this weed abatement. Here in California, there's a lot of that. Back east, it's not so much, but out here, it's required by law for fire safety. So whatever the reason is, that if they happen to tell you, listen. Make sure you exploit that. Carefully, ask it in a curious tone. Well, what happens if you don't get that done by the due date, right? Or, are they going to fine you or what? So, listen carefully and then ask for the money, because again, the top constraint is what will the traffic bear. That's what I want to find out. Right? They always ask you, right? They ask me. I'm selling a tractor. I'm selling a trailer, a truck, whatever. They always ask you on Facebook, what's the lowest you take? What a stupid question. And I just respond, well, what's the most you'll pay? It's the same question, right? Whoever drops their pants first, right? They want you to drop your pants and just tell them, okay, this is the lowest I'll take. I just want to get rid of it. And some people are like that, but some people want to get, most people want to get as much as possible. So they might take, 2,000, but they got it listed for 4. But are most people going to tell you right off the bat, well, I'll take 2, Maybe they will, maybe they won't. If it's been listed for, a year and a half, they might, right? So you can lowball them. But if they just listed the thing, give them a chance. That's what I tell people. Look, I just listed the darn trailer tractor, today. So I'm gonna see what I can get. Will you take whatever half? Sure. If I still have it in 6 months, then they just what are they gonna say, right? They want it, they'll step up. They don't, they're just trolling. Then I'm not that guy. So remember, for when I'm running that mulcher, well, that's not even a mulcher. That's a heavy duty brush cutter. It's not a mulching head. It's not a 30, 40, $50,000 head. That's a $299 DXHP, right? It'll run it. But I am not running that thing on steep hills and knocking down 12-foot sumac. They're trees, man. The trunks are like 6 inches around, and brush is like up to your waist, and you can't even walk on these steep hills, and this thing can handle it. I'm getting $3,000 to $5,000 an acre, because I look at that and I go, I'm looking at the guy. I've talked to the guy and I'm feeling him out, and he's got a wedding coming up, and he's worried about the fire, and this guy's got a lot of acres he needs mowed, and so it's like twice as big as the other job I did, and that was like 1,500. How's 3,000 grab you? I'm thinking 3,000. Just do a little temperature. You can say it like that, and they're kind of like, well, give them a chance to counter you. They like that, especially guys who feel it's a pride thing. Oh, I got him down a couple $100. So say, sure enough, he's like, well, how about 28? Can you do it for 28? Stick out your hand and say, 2,800, and then you go get your equipment and come back and do the job. Now, if you're just gonna go whatever, $250 an acre or $250 an hour, I was done in 3 hours. That's $750 versus $2,800. You blow a hydraulic hose, you slip a track, you break a blade, whatever, right? That sucks. You're not making money. As you've seen in this video, I showed you a lot of this equipment. This is another constraint. All these tractors, the two Bobcats, that Bobcat, the S750 back there, that's the T450, the John Deere 333, the Cat 289, they got a couple zero turns around there, the Kubota, this John Deere, and then you saw the other John Deere over there. They're all paid for, folks. I don't borrow a dime. I got people call me all the time, banks, oh, your business is, and you qualify, and free offer this, and 0%. Don't do it, folks. I started with a push mower, and pretty much put 90% of my profits back into the business and equipment. I was a truck driver at the time, so I didn't need it to live on. I quit my truck driving job because I make twice as much doing this, working probably a fifth of the time, maybe a tenth of the time. It's very seasonal. I'm trying to do more off-season work by grading because the mowing is mainly in the summertime. But if you owe money, like you see Mike Andes, he goes to visit these people. They're struggling to make business. They're about ready to throw in the towel because they own so much new equipment. Well, the bank owns it. They're making payments on it. They're drowning in debt, and they're miserable. They're living with stress. You can't sleep. I can't sleep, man. I like $3,000 on my credit card. Like, oh, I gotta pay that off. I just slide the money from my checking over to my credit card. Just use your credit card. It's safer that way. But stay out of debt. Number one thing billionaires will tell you is stay out of debt. Stay out of debt for your business. It'll kill you, rob you of your joy, your peace. Your marriage is just fights because you're stressed out. And when it comes to doing a bid, you're going like, oh dear, man, this is a really good job, and I really don't want to lose it. I really need the money. This is probably a $3,000 job, and he probably got a couple of. They'll be like, hey, I'll do it for $1,500. Now the guy's scratching his head. If he really does have a couple other bids at $3,000, and you come in at $1,500, he's wondering what the hell is wrong with you. You got the wrong equipment. Do you know what you're doing? You gonna finish the job or what? So don't be in debt, because when you're in debt, you can walk away. Like, that's $3,000. Can you do it for 15? Like, no, I'm afraid I just can't. And this is too dangerous work. Now, when I'm running my little skid steers to do grading, I'm good at $150 an hour. That's not dangerous. I'm not tearing anything up. Not worried about blowing out a hose or rolling it or doing something crazy like that. Mowing, I don't know what I'm gonna hit. That's $500 an hour. Up there with that big old beast, it's heavy pulling that thing. It's dangerous. I can hit all kinds of stuff, break things. The cat parts are super expensive. That's $1,000 an hour. I don't care how they look at it. I just $3,000. I got to get around there. If I only get 25 or 2 grand an hour, or 2 grand for the day, I'm good. I made some money. But you have to have a target, and don't worry about trying to figure out to the penny how many pennies per mile you're spending on your truck or your insurance and all that. Again, that's your bottom line. You want to be way up here, as much as you can get, as much as the traffic will bear. So and don't worry about what your competition is charging. Try to get as much as you can. People say, "Oh, don't try to get rich on one job." Why not? A friend of mine, he charges twice what I charge. And I'm like, how the hell you get that? Well, who knows? They're going to call back next year. They're just going to call somebody else. Maybe they move. Maybe they buy a tractor. Like, I'm going to get as much as I can, And it's not cheating people if it's what they wanted. Nobody's being ripped off. If you promised A and you deliver A, then you should get paid whatever you agreed on, because that's what they agreed on. And that's what you got to find out and build the value of your service, the value in their mind. And there's many ways you can do that. Talk about how expensive your equipment is, how dangerous it is, how many people go out of business out a year because they don't charge enough, and you're not that guy. And I don't get off my couch for less than $500, and that's to push one of these around. And I don't even drive this one that much. This one's for sale. I'm selling I use the one that's air conditioned. I'll stay out of the dust, the bugs, and the heat. But you want to build value in their mind, so you can estimate, what is this worth to them? Not what it's going to cost you, but what's the job worth to them? I had a guy going around with me about, he thought it was this much an hour, and and he thought that was kind of ripping him off. You don't want to get ripped off. I was like, no, forget about that. I don't know what you heard about the price per hour for this or that. I was like, we agreed on the price, and I said, look at that hillside. You can now walk through it like a park, and it's a hillside. I mean, you can walk it any side. Anyway, it's so steep. I said, now you can see the whole hillside, and it's not a fire danger anymore. Is the price we agreed on worth that? Is that worth it? Yes or no? And he goes, well, yeah. Well, then that's the bottom line. That's all that matters. If you feel you got value for your money, then you should be happy. So, folks, take these classes, any kind of training, any kind of sales training, how to overcome objections. Oh man, that's too much. That's exactly why you need to buy it. What? Well, nothing's getting cheaper, right? Your parents' house, would you like to buy their parents' house at the price they paid? Oh yeah, they only paid $30,000. It's like 1,800 square feet. Yeah, everything's super expensive. How much cost? Oh, it's probably $500,000 now, San Diego. So that's exactly why they need to pay. People ask me for a discount. Oh, hey, can I get a discount this year? Sure. Name one thing is cheaper this year than last year. Oh, never mind. Because nothing's getting cheaper. It's called inflation. Everything is getting more expensive. So, that's expensive compared to what? They don't know what. Oh, what do you charge per hour? Well, do you know what I can do in an hour? Well, no. So I tell you what, I have to answer that phone, and sometimes, because I'm a one-man operation, when that phone rings, I got to answer it. I might be on that phone for 10, 15 minutes, and I don't want you, ring in your hands or worried about if I'm going to charge you for that phone call. Just agree on the price, which you're comfortable with, and whether it takes me, 2 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days, the price stays the same. How's that sound? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Learn how to handle the objection. Learn how to handle your customer. Learn to know what is going on in their mind and their head, and where you are in the sales process. Learn to ask questions. Oh, okay, well, it's such and such amount, $3,000. Okay, I got to talk to the wife about it. It's like, all right, a little more than you expected. Tell me, how far apart are we? Huh? Well, I know it's just about the money. I'm sure you're not going to go in there and tell your wife and sit down with your wife and talk it over. I know the routine. It's too much money, you're thinking, So like, well, how far apart are we? What were you thinking? Well, I was kind of thinking, if it's really low, they're too ashamed to tell you. I said, that's all right. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just come on, what were you thinking? Two, 300, you know, two, 3,000. What were you thinking? Well, I was thinking more like 500. Well, yeah, wow. I wish I could, but I can't even rent one for these, for that price. And if there's no money there, there's no money there. And that's what thing you want to learn how to do is how to get kind of an idea, ballpark figure, if this is even a qualified customer. So sometimes I'll ask them, if we go around and around, we're trying to get a price, for a project, say like grading. I say, well, what's your budget? They don't want to tell you. So I put it like this. This is how I usually get some kind of an idea. Is it 200 or 300, or 2 or 3,000, 15,000, Oh, no, but more like 500. So they'll go out and tell you. I was like, well, I'll tell you right now, I don't take any of my Bobcats out for less than $1,000. It's $150 an hour, 4-hour minimum, plus $350 travel charge, delivery fee. Don't call it a what was I going to say, a service fee, because sometimes they don't want to pay. If you end up just showing up and not doing anywhere, well, I got to charge you the delivery fee so they can pay you something if you end up canceling. They feel obligated to that. But anyway, learn to get the money. Forget what everybody else is charging. They might be charging half of what you want. And I'm telling you, the best salespeople in the world, they write their own ticket. They're making more money in a down market when everybody else is throwing in the towel. They're making sales when everybody else is looking for a different career, and everything is sales. So learn sales, learn how to close, learn how to ask for the money, learn how to meet the client, but most of all, learn how to make the phone ring. If you can make the phone ring, if you get 100 chances a day, you're going to do all right. If you only get one chance a week, you have to close that one. So learn how to close, learn how to get the money, learn how to get enough money where you're happy doing it. If something breaks, you're not going to die. I blew one of those tires the other day. $300 for a tire. Found a used one like new, thank God. $130 installed, but I had to take the tractor off, take off the wheel. It's a torsion axle, so I threw the tire on top of there, booked it down to the tire shop. They threw on the tire, installed it, and I came back, had to load the tractor again, chain it down, go to do the job. That was like 3 hours turning around out of my day. You got to charge for that. You got a little bit for each one, because sooner or later you're going to have a problem like that. And make sure you have a spare. I didn't have a spare with me that day, so put a spare on there now. So please comment questions if you'd like me to break down more pricing on something. I'd be happy to tell you. If you want more information or training on sales, I can talk about sales. It'll blow your mind, the stuff you can do when you get some sales training. Stuff sounds totally impossible, like, oh no, people would never do that. And then you learn the sales techniques and training, and get under your belt, and you look them with confidence in the eye. You look them in the eye with confidence and ask for that money, and they're like smiling and writing a check or giving you the cash. So you can do it. Just keep learning, but you got to make that phone ring and stay out of debt. God bless y'all. Leave me a comment, subscribe, ask me questions if you like. I always get back to people. Thanks.